Mercy Me is coming to Pittsburgh. The Together Again tour with Mercy Me, Crowder, and special guest Andrew Ripp. Thursday, October 5th. Bring your family and friends to the PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh for Mercy Me, Crowder, and Andrew Ripp live in concert. 3 multiple award-winning artists on one stage for one night. Let your spirit soar, your heart sing, and your faith ignite. Mark your calendars for Thursday, October 5th. Get your tickets now at mercyme.org.
It's exciting that the business boutique was made for you.
I know that I can make a difference in people's lives, and I want to do that.
Hearing a lot of what other people are going through is really healing in a sense and motivating as well.
I have the world in my hand, and I can do whatever I want to.
Learning from some of the top leaders who can make these dreams a reality is just so exciting.
It ignited a passion in me to know she can do that, we can do that too.
I'm so blessed to have heard the podcast that led me to this moment.
Hey, welcome to the Business Boutique Podcast. I'm Christy Wright, and today we are talking about surviving Christmas. Now, I know that may sound crazy because we are just now getting into my very favorite season, which is fall. But you know what? When Christmas is right around the corner, just a couple months away, we've got to start planning early in our businesses. And I'm so excited about this episode because, guys, we have not one, but 2 interviews for you all. We're going to be talking about surviving Christmas in 3 areas of your life. Surviving Christmas in your business, surviving Christmas in your life, and surviving Christmas with your money. So I'm so excited because we have a guest interview with Melissa Kaiserman, who is an Etsy expert. And she's going to walk us through some great tips on how to survive Christmas in your business. Then we also have a bonus fun interview with my very good friend and New York Times bestselling author, Rachel Cruze, and she's going to help us learn some tips where we can really take control of our money, especially during this crazy season. So we've got a lot to cover. This is going to be a fun episode, and we're going to dive right in. Okay, so here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to give you 3 tips in each of these areas of your life. I want to give you 3 tips to survive Christmas in your business, 3 tips to survive Christmas in your life, and 3 tips to survive Christmas with your money. So first, let's look at our business. As most of you probably know, there is always going to be some sense of seasonality to your business. If you are a product-based business, for the most part, the majority of your sales are going to come during the 4th quarter. They're going to come in these last few months of the year. Now, if you're a service-based business, it may vary. If you're an event planner, for example, you may have a crazy Christmas season as well. The only exception to this would be those of you that might have more of a summer-based business, whether that's swim lessons or gardening or something like that. So for those of you that have a heavy Christmas season, let's talk about a few things that you can do to make sure that you maximize your sales and don't lose your mind in the process. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to set goals. Now, you know I teach about this a lot. I love setting goals in your business because if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to get there. But instead of setting big goals for the entire year or maybe even a 5-year plan, I want you to set some goals just for the Christmas season. What do you hope to accomplish in your business this fall? What do you hope to gain in terms of customers or revenue or units sold? When you start to realize that you have goals just for this short window of time, it will help you make a plan to reach those goals. Then you're going to get to make the most of these next 3 months to make sure you're actually reaching them before you close out the year end. The second thing that I want you to do is I want you to work ahead. I know that right now with fall just starting, if you're in a part of the country where the leaves change, it's just starting to get that coolness in the air, and it may be hard to imagine that Christmas is right around the corner, but I'll tell you, if you'll do a little bit of work now, if you'll work ahead, maybe get some inventory built up, incentivize some advanced orders from your customers, if you can plan now, you're going to make things so much easier on yourself during December when things start to really get crazy. So schedule some time in your calendar during the month of October and November to work ahead on your orders. Go ahead and stock things up on supplies. Make sure you're getting some of your best-selling items ready to go so that when those orders come in, you're ready to ship them and you don't have to make them all as they come in. And your third tip for surviving the crazy Christmas season in your business is I want you to make sure that you're communicating with your customers. And here's what I mean by that. Christmas may not be on your customers' minds either, but you know what? You can incentivize advance orders. You can email them, you can reach out to them, start to post things on Facebook with specials or getting some excitement around Christmas that will let them know not only to think of you for Christmas, but also it helps you communicate with them to set expectations. Here's what's really important with this. If you set expectations on the front end with your customers, it helps them know how to interact with you. I'll give you an example that happened earlier this year around Mother's Day. I was looking on Etsy for a personalized piece of jewelry for my mother-in-law, and whenever I was looking, I noticed on one of the seller's pages that it said, all Mother's Day orders must be received by, and it had the date. And I looked at my calendar to find out what day it was of the week, and I realized, oh wow, I only have 2 days to order. What was so great about this is it took all of the thinking and calculating of the shipping time out of it for me. I could look and know that if I ordered by that date, I would receive the gift I wanted by Mother's Day. But it also helped the seller know that they're not going to be receiving orders very last minute and trying to scramble to get them out the door. It's a win-win situation for you as a business owner and for your customers. And even though your customers may not be thinking about Christmas, and it may be hard for you as well, you've got to realize you only have 2 months left until Christmas. So you want to maximize that time and make as many orders as you can to maximize your sales this Christmas season. So if you'll do these 3 things when you set goals for your Christmas season for your business, when you work ahead to try to get a head start on all of those orders that might be coming in, and when you communicate with your customers what they should expect from you from policies and shipping and dates and times, when you do those 3 things, you will significantly reduce your stress this Christmas season and get to have a life at the same time during one of the most fun seasons of the year. Now, we've talked about how to survive the crazy Christmas season in your business. Let's talk about how to survive it in your life. Because believe it or not, the Christmas season, even though it's wonderful, can be a really stressful time for people. So I've got 3 tips for you to survive the crazy Christmas season in your life as well. The first thing that I want you to do is I want you to think about what are your favorite things to do at Christmas. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I find myself in the middle of December thinking it's going to be this wonderful holiday month where I'll get to drink hot chocolate and snuggle with my kids, and instead, I'm running ragged. I'm busy. I'm just a different kind of busy than I'm used to during the year. The truth is, a lot of times we have more opportunities and more responsibilities and more parties and things to go to than ever before, and we feel pulled in multiple competing directions. We're constantly trying to keep up, and we want it to be this Pinterest perfect Christmas, but what happens is we end up stressed and exhausted, and we kind of miss the whole thing. So instead, what I want you to do is I want you to make a greatest hits list. Think back to the CDs from the 80s and 90s where you would have maybe your favorite musician and they would compile all of their best songs onto one album. And you'd buy that album knowing you're going to get the CD, you love every song and you know every word. And you sing the words every time you hear it. I want you to do that for Christmas. Make a list of your favorite traditions. What are the things that you always loved to do as a child? What are the things that your family has talked about doing but you've never found the time for? What are some fun events going on in your city or your neighborhood that you'd love to get involved with? If you sit down and write out your Christmas greatest hits list, it'll give you a great guideline of what you should spend time on this Christmas. Then you're getting to decide how you spend your time and what things you're doing, rather than everyone else deciding for you. Instead of reacting to everyone else's demands and opportunities all around you, you get to make the call. You get to create this wonderful Christmas season that looks exactly like what you want it to. So the first tip to surviving Christmas in your crazy life is just for you to decide what you want to spend time on this Christmas, and then make a list of your favorite things to do and do just those things. Now that leads me to my second tip, and this is a hard one, and I talk about this a lot. I want you to say no more. Now, I know this is hard. It's Christmas and we're all feeling warm and fuzzy and you don't want to disappoint anyone, but during Christmas or any time during the year, we've got to have the ability to say no, because you don't have just the right to say no. You have the responsibility to say no. And if you want to protect your time and spend it only on those things that matter the most to you, then you've got to be willing to say no to some things. That means turning down parties. And next time they need someone to bring a dish to the potluck, you don't raise your hand. Or the next time they have a white elephant gift, you don't bring a gift. Whatever it looks like in your life, you have the ability to say no to those things that don't really matter, so that you can say yes to all those things that you created on your Christmas greatest hits list. When you start saying no more to those things you don't care about, you're going to free up so much time for those things that you do. Think about how nice it would be to have a Christmas season that has room to breathe, where you spend nights at home, snuggling by the fireplace, you're watching classic Christmas movies, you're drinking hot chocolate, and you're dreaming of the next year. You can create that Christmas, but it's up to you to do that by saying no and only spending your time on what matters the most. Now, after you've made a list of your favorite things to do at Christmas, and you've been willing to say no to some of those things that don't fall on your list, The third thing I just want to encourage you to do is I want you to put your phone down. Be present. I want you to look up instead of down and look people in the eyes instead of looking at the screen. Now, I know this may sound difficult because this is one of your craziest seasons in your business. But the truth is, any time of the year, I want you to have a life outside of work. I want you to bust it in your business, and I want you to make a difference and earn those sales, but I also want you to have a life. And in those moments where you're spending time with your family, be intentional about putting your phone down. Guys, you know I talk about this all the time, and I talk about it because I struggle with it myself. But our temptation to look down and look at our phones 24/7 is all around us. This is something that for me, I've caught myself again and again looking at my phone just out of habit. I'm not even interested in what's going on and my phone didn't ring, but for some reason, out of habit, I'm always looking down. So this Christmas, I just want to encourage you to look up. Look up at your family and your friends. Create moments and memories that matter. Look at all of the beautiful things around you, whether that's snowflakes falling outside if you live in the north, or if you live in the south and you're hoping that snowflakes fall outside. Maybe you sit and look at your Christmas tree and each of you tell stories about all of the ugly and crazy and funny ornaments that decorate the tree. Maybe everyone piles in the car and you go look at Christmas lights and drink some apple cider. Whatever that looks like for you, I hope you do it. It's not that hard to put your phone down. It's just a matter of making it a habit. So turn it off or put it on airplane mode. Put it out of sight, out of mind. Put it in the console of your car or in your purse. Put it somewhere where you can't get to it. And instead of looking down at your phone, instead of spending your Christmas with your head and your neck craned down, I pray that you'll just look up. Look your kids in the eyes, laugh with your spouse, and create a Christmas that you remember. Okay, so my 3 tips for you to survive the crazy season in your life is first, make your greatest hits list. Think of all the fun things you want to do this Christmas and do only those things. The second tip is you want to say no more. That means turning down some requests or opportunities, but it's so that you can say yes to those things that you wrote down on your greatest hits list. And the third thing I want you to do is to put your phone down. Be present for those moments and memories that are happening all around you during this magical season. Okay, so we've talked about how to survive the crazy season in your business. We've covered how to survive the crazy season in your life. Now we need to talk about one other area that's really important, especially during the Christmas season. And that is how to survive this season with your money. Believe it or not, Christmas is a time where not only do we have a good time spending, but those good times follow us into the new year. And then they become stressful times. We've got bills on credit cards. We spent too much money and we've got buyer's remorse all around us. We're surrounded by a bunch of stuff, but honestly, we feel guilty and we spend most of the next year trying to pay it off. So let's talk about how we can do something different to where this Christmas season isn't one of regret. The first tip that I have for you for your Christmas season is I want you to create a Christmas budget. This is kind of like what we talked about in your business where you want to have specific business goals for the Christmas season. Well, you also want to have a specific Christmas budget. You probably have a Christmas list in mind of people that you want and need to buy gifts for. Write out that list and then write out an amount of money that you plan to spend on that person. When you plan in advance for how much you're going to spend on each person on your list and how much you're going to spend on gifts and giving total, it's so great because it holds you accountable. If not, if you just show up at the mall with no plan in mind and you start shopping and find things for people based on what you think they might like or what catches your eye, you may end up overspending by hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So instead, what's your goal? Is your goal to spend $100 this Christmas on your list? Or maybe $500 on your Christmas list? Or $1,000? You get to choose based on how much money you've saved throughout the year and how much you have available and want to spend on these people in your life. But the important thing is that you set a goal, because if you don't set a goal for your money, you won't reach it. So your first tip for your money is to create a specific Christmas budget. And if you need help doing that, you can visit everydollar.com where you can get started with your budget. Now, the second thing that I want you to do is I want you to think outside the box. Now, in this case, the box is the mall. You have so many options of gifts that you can buy and things that you can do for people that don't have anything to do with the big chain store. Think about it this way. Some of the most meaningful gifts you've probably ever received in your life didn't come from a mall. Maybe it was a gift that someone made for you, handmade, and put a lot of thought into. Or maybe it was something that someone did for you. They came over and watched your kids and gave you a date night out on the town. More often than not, some of the gifts that we love and treasure the most are not gifts that come from any store. That helps you save on your Christmas budget at the same time. Now, the third thing that I want you to do to help your money this Christmas, and y'all, I'll be real honest right now, this is a hard one. I don't want you to buy anything for yourself. I know, wah, wah. This is a hard one. Every time I'm shopping, I just get so inspired that I just feel the need to buy something for myself because let's be honest, I deserve it, right? Here's the truth. The reality is over half of Americans buy things for themselves at Christmas. And you know what, y'all? We don't have to do that. Christmas really is about moments and memories and giving and love and hot chocolate and snuggling. And it doesn't have to be about buying something for ourselves. Instead, if you would make the one simple decision to have the discipline to walk out of the stores without anything for yourself, imagine how much money you'll save. You'll have more money to buy things for others or to give, or guess what? Just save for the next year. I know this is a hard one, but I'll tell you, this may be the one that saves you the most money. So to recap, for you to survive the crazy Christmas season with your money, I want you to first create a Christmas budget, and you can do that at everydollar.com. Second, I want you to think outside the box. And by that, I just mean think outside the stores. And third, don't buy anything for yourself. If you do those three things this Christmas, I promise you, you will save a ton of money and go into the next year with a much stronger bank account. So there are your tips on how to survive this crazy Christmas season in your business, in your life, and with your money. But as we know, there are going to be things that come up that you can't really plan for or you may not have seen coming. That's why I'm so excited to have my friend here with me, Melissa Kaiserman. Melissa is an Etsy expert, and she teaches small business owners all over the country how to not only survive the crazy Christmas season, but how to just maximize their Etsy store in general. So Melissa, I know that for you, Etsy is a platform that's been really successful, so much so that you've actually coached women on this. And with Christmas just around the corner, I know a lot of our listeners are probably thinking, I've got an Etsy business, and how do I manage the traffic during Christmas? So give us some tips early on that we can do maybe a month out, 2 months out to kind of prepare for the Christmas season to start out with.
Well, definitely preparing ahead of time is a good idea. In fact, hopefully some people maybe have even been thinking about it before October hits and starting to think through what the process is going to be. But for sure, I would not wait until November to try to tackle that. October is a good time to start making some things ahead of time. Try to create a little bit more margin in your business so that you have a bit of an inventory stocked up for your pre-made, ready to ship kinds of items. You might have to make some decisions if you make custom items, whether it's you're customizing fabric, you're personalizing things. You might have to decide how many can I actually manage to do to ship in time for Christmas. And you might have to put a limit on that or set a deadline. You might have to say, okay, for this particular customized item, it has to be ordered by November 15th, November 30th, whatever you feel like is reasonable for it to be able to be delivered in time for Christmas, or set an amount that you're able to make so that you are not completely swamped, because that is a reality for a lot of sellers, especially that are new, who haven't had a Christmas season yet. And if their shop is becoming popular, they could be all of a sudden overwhelmed. And then you don't want the kind of negative feedback that's going to come from customers leaving reviews when they're not getting their items in time for Christmas gift giving.
Right.
So make those decisions early on. You might have to tweak them if it's approaching closer and closer and you're realizing I'm still having so many orders coming in. I'm going to have to back up that deadline a little bit, and just make sure you're communicating with customers, putting announcements in your shop, putting it in the listing product description so that people can see it. You might need to deactivate listings. If you don't feel like you can take on any more of those orders, just deactivate it and reactivate it after the holidays. But I would really encourage people to focus on having as many ready to ship items prepared ahead of time, because that will cut down on a lot of stress for you as the holidays approach.
Whether you have a business already or if you don't have a business, how would you advise people to choose, how many to make of each thing? Like, how do you kind of advise them in terms of inventory, and how much do you make of your thing or each item before Christmas season in anticipation of what you think it's going to do?
That is really a process that you kind of figure out as you list things and see how popular they are. So you just have to kind of start putting things out there. I would recommend, let's say you make things with fabric like I do. Don't go out and purchase 50 different fabric choices to start with. Have a smaller number, see how they sell, and then continue to make more if those are selling well. But if you have a standard signature product, you might want to offer that in a few different options, and then have multiples available of that without buying so many materials that if it doesn't sell, that you're not going to be able to use it. But maybe you want to list, 10 of each of those and see how they do. Then if you see, well, some of them are totally selling out as soon as I list them, others are kind of sitting there, then reorder the materials for the ones that are selling out. But it's really a process, so you'll get a feel for it as you go.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about, now I know you actually have an Etsy business on your own in addition with coaching people. For you, how did you really streamline your production, your fulfillment, not just during the Christmas season, but really all year long? But during Christmas, it's so important for you to be as efficient as possible. How did you streamline that to make sure that you are saving as much time and reducing your costs as much as possible during that crazy season for you when you were actually making things?
Well, I realized about a year and a half into my business that winging it wasn't going to work anymore.
Right.
Because my business was slowly growing and I was able to handle the orders. But then all of a sudden I got featured on a blog about budgeting, and someone put a picture of the wallet that they had purchased from me, and it was a popular blog. And all of a sudden my shop, the cha-ching is going off on my phone. And I totally panicked because it was super exciting, but I had to shut down my shop a couple of times just to even be able to catch up with the conversations people were sending me about, do you have this available? Do you have this available? Because things were selling out and I wasn't, having the time to relist them or remake them. And so I realized I've got to have a system in place for no matter how busy my shop is, being able to handle if things pick up without feeling like I've got to close or go into vacation mode just to be able to deal with the orders. So I actually created a system of processing my orders from the time they come in until they go out the door, because you can have piles all around your workspace of things that you are creating that you're having to search. You're looking at, okay, this order is supposed to ship on Wednesday. Where is it? And then you're wasting all this time searching.
Sure.
So that's one thing, is creating a system. And I also recommend creating margin in your workflow so that you are not behind on orders or shipping orders late. And one way to do that is to make sure that your processing times are maybe even a little longer than you need them to be. So if you know that something will probably take you 3 days to finish and ship, you might want to make the processing time in your listing 5 days or a week, because you know for sure you'll be able to get it done and ship it in that amount of time. But what if you get sick? What if one of your kids gets sick? What if an emergency happens in your family? Then all of a sudden it completely throws off your shipping dates. But if you've built in some margin that you know is a little bit more than you need, then you're going to have an easier time keeping on top of those shipping dates. And the same applies for Christmas. You might need to make your lead times a little bit longer as the Christmas season approaches. But it's really important to also set a deadline to say orders have got to be made by this date in order to ship by December 10th or whatever you have set as your shipping date.
Well, that's one of the great things about business, is because when you own the business, whether it's Etsy or otherwise, you get to create your policies around whatever you're comfortable with, and you can do it however you want to. And just this year, actually, I bought a necklace for my mother-in-law for Mother's Day. And ironically, the day that I went on to Etsy and found the one that I wanted, there was a note from the seller that said the cutoff day is this day. And it was that day. And I was like, I made it, yes. But she was teaching the customers, this is the cutoff for Mother's Day. She said, if you're going to make it for Mother's Day, this is the cutoff if you want to get this particular piece, because it was a gift for mothers and that type of thing. And so it's really good wisdom for each of our listeners to understand you can really create your policies around what you're able to do, and you don't have to apologize for them. You can be accommodating, but I like also how you said build in a little bit of cushion, because it gives you a little bit of leeway if something goes wrong. Now, one of the things, Melissa, that we talk about a lot is how to stand out on Etsy. And I know you get this question a lot. I get it all the time. But Etsy is crazy busy, and there's tons of products. And so give us a little bit of advice and give us maybe some tips and takeaways on what are ways that these women can make their business stand out on Etsy, especially leading into the Christmas season if they have maybe seasonal products for Christmas.
Well, I think really with Etsy being so saturated, as you said, the last statistic I heard was there's over 1.6 million active sellers, which means if you're an active seller, they have collected a fee from you in some form in the last year. So you've listed something in your shop. It hasn't been sitting there for years dead.
Right.
So you have to stand out, like you said. And one of the ways of doing that is to actually create a niche for yourself. And I know that is hard because some people who are very creative think, I can just make all the things and just put them in my shop, and then people will have lots of options. And I have found that the most successful shops are very focused on a particular type of product or line of products and a particular target market. So that is the very most important thing for standing out on Etsy. I would say the second most, honestly, is your photos. Because if someone goes to Etsy and searches, the search results that they see, their influence for whether or not they're going to click-through is going to be mostly coming from those photos. If your photo is quality and bright and clear, it's going to attract their attention much more than ones that have a dark background or blurry. So the photo is how you get someone into your shop, combined with the price, I would say, as well. But that is the first thing they're going to see in those thumbnails. So that is a way of standing out and getting someone to at least come into your shop and look around.
It's so interesting you say that too about standing out and having a niche, because you, as you're familiar with, teach women to have focus in your business. Like pick one business and do it well. And you can add products and services, but add like things that are similar. And so what's interesting is I think that in the main marketplace and websites and that type of thing, women get that. They think, oh yeah, I need to have focus. I need to have a, hair bow business or whatever it is, and add things. But on Etsy, it just feels like this free-for-all of every crafty idea that's ever popped in your head. It's this thrift store, flea market nonsense. And what happens is the effect on the customers is the same as you confuse them. And so, for example, when I've gone on Etsy and I've bought, let's say, like a downloadable printable thing, or I've bought custom designed invitations, when I have a good experience with that designer, I'm not going to go on the next time and look at all the designers. I'm just going to go back to my designer, right? Because I had a good experience with her, and it takes the thought process and the time and the finding and searching, filtering out for me, because I know I like that designer because she's known in my mind as a designer. If you're known for one thing and then take care of your customers well, you can have repeat customers on Etsy, and then your client base grows and you're standing out, not necessarily because you're the only designer, but you've taken care of people, and that repeat customer base is growing and growing. And so I love that advice. And then also, like you talked about with the photos, it's funny, my husband and I are thrifty, and we buy our furniture, a lot of it, just like dining room tables or that type of thing, on Craigslist. And when you scroll through Craigslist, if there's a dining room table that's in someone's garage with their cat sleeping on it and, looking gross with all kinds of clutter, I'm like, even if I love the table, I'm not going to go, because I'm like, they've not taken care of the table. It's dark, it's dingy, I don't want to go in there. But when you have a beautiful photo of a table you maybe like a little bit less, but it's been taken care of, it's a beautiful home, beautiful set, they've got little placemats on it, you're like, oh, I need that table, and it's the presentation that makes you be able to picture it in your home or not. And the same is true with products. And so that's a good piece of advice for these women, especially with photos, that sometimes it's hard to take that extra step because you want to get it up and get it live. But really, if you do, the presentation can go a long way. So have you worked with women that have taken their Etsy business and then grown it to a website? And if so, what does that process look like in terms of they're ready to expand to beyond Etsy? How do they know when they're ready to do that?
I think there are a couple of indicators. One is that you look at your traffic. Is my traffic mostly coming from Etsy search or other places within Etsy? Or am I starting to see an increase in outside traffic coming into my shop, which means most likely the seller is driving the traffic there through social media, probably maybe through a blog that they have. And so I think when you start to see that shift, that's a good indication that you might be ready to set up your own website, because if you're driving traffic to your Etsy shop, then you can start driving traffic to that other shop, because people are following you, they're paying attention to you. And that's going to save you in those fees that you're paying if you have your own standalone shop. Now, there's different shop options. Some shop options, such as Shopify, do have a monthly fee, but it's pretty minimal if you look at the volume of sales that you might have, because you're not paying a fee on every sale. So that's kind of a decision that has to be made too, looking at the margin you have in your life. What season of life are you in? Can you handle the things that are going to come with having a completely standalone shop? It's going to require a little bit more work. But I also recommend that people keep their shops on Etsy as well. It's kind of like having another counter to your shop. And because there's so much internal traffic on Etsy, because people know to go there to search, it's like, to me, why close up shop? Yeah, right. Why would you not keep it there? So if you can manage tracking inventory and sales from two different spots, and there are apps to help you do that, where I can actually combine them into one place and you can ship from there, then I say go for it. Go ahead and try that and see how it goes. You're probably not going to lose anything, probably only stand to gain, as long as you can manage both of them. So looking at your traffic is one thing. And then also, I think that if you are wanting to maybe blog to go along with your shop, maybe you're blogging about things related to the type of products that you sell, then that could be another good indication that maybe you should locate your shop in the same place as your website. Because then if you're sending people to your website to read your blog and look at the content that you have to offer, then your shop is right there and available.
Well, and it's such a great piece of advice too, because we focus a lot in the Business Boutique on marketing and selling and advertising and getting word out there about your business. And so in addition to a blog, what are some other tips and tricks that you teach women when you work with them on Etsy on how to get people to their Etsy store so you can actually up that traffic like you're talking about?
Well, social media is an obvious one. And I recommend that as soon as someone has their name that they want for their shop, that they go claim that on every social media channel that they can. Even if they think, oh, I'm never going to use Twitter. What if you decide to down the road and then your business name is taken by someone else? So go ahead and get those names out there. But I think that as far as social media, a good practice that I see, which I wish I had done this in the beginning, is I would focus on one social media outlet at a time and master it. So I think for product-based businesses, Pinterest is a really good choice because people go to Pinterest to find products and shop, and the life of a pin is really, really long compared to a Facebook post that you haven't boosted or
That's
an
a good point.
Instagram post. And those things keep getting repinned and repinned, and that's one of the highest sources of traffic to my shop on Etsy. Instagram can be another one for product-based businesses because the visual part of it, a lot of people have really great success with that. Facebook can be if you're willing to pay to promote your posts. In general, if you're just going to post on a Facebook page, it's not going to probably get a lot of traffic. So social media is one, and then I would say another one, which has probably been the biggest success for my shop, is to partner with other bloggers who will feature your products in a post and maybe do a giveaway or a review. That has built so many backlinks to my shop, which is really helpful for being found on Google. And it provides a lot of social proof as well. So I think that the partnerships I have done with bloggers were key in my shop's largest leaps of growth. And I always made sure that I was developing relationships with those bloggers ahead of time. I didn't just randomly contact a blogger because they might review your product or do a giveaway of it. But if you don't have that relationship there, there's a totally different feel to what they post about it.
Right.
And there's less of a connection, I think, with the reader than when the reader goes, wow, this person really loves this product and is really passionate about it. And they're more likely to click through in that case. So building relationships with bloggers who have your same target market or at least an overlap of your target market is a really great idea to getting people to your shop.
Now, Melissa, one of the things that I think is so fun about you, and especially having you speak at our business boutique events and that type of thing, is your story of how you even got to speak with us and join our brand is kind of a fun one. So I would just love it if you share it because I think it's really inspirational for women. You said one of the things that you did was reach out and partner with bloggers. And I think some women are just scared. They'd be scared to reach out and scared to connect, and you weren't. And now you're here adding incredible value to these women. So I'd love for you to just kind of give a little bit of backstory of how that happened.
That is a fun story to tell. When you started the blog and started blogging about side business, I started following you because I was very interested in that. And then when the survey went out of the summer of 2015, I guess it would have been, asking some questions to try to get a feel for what I realized was going to be an event, I started getting really excited. And then I think there was another follow-up survey that made it really clear that there was going to be an event. And then when I found out that it was in place, I was just like, I want to offer whatever kind of help I can. I don't know if I can make it there, but I know they're starting a Facebook group and maybe they need some help with that. And so I just sent you a message saying, I'm really passionate about this. I'm super excited this is going to happen. I think there's been a hole in the market for women like me who aren't trying to build this huge platform, but just want a side business because they're home with their kids and want to make some extra money. So I just said, is there anything I can do at all to help? And well, you asked me some questions about myself, and then you put me in contact with Lindsay, who called me, asked me more questions about what I did, and then said, well, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to recommend that you speak at the next event. I'm like, you're going to what?
Wait a minute.
Maybe you need someone to help administrate your Facebook group. I'm a behind the scenes girl.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting. It's not what I expected at all, but it's totally an example of just reaching out if there's something that you believe in or passionate about or interested in, and just connect and just see what happens after that. Because I never in a million years would have dreamed that I would be speaking at a business boutique.
Well, that's what's so cool too, because I think for a lot of the women, and even regardless of what level you are in business, regardless of what level of influence or exposure platform you have, there's always someone that has more influence and exposure than you, and you look at them and think, I don't have anything to offer them. There's no way that they would want to have anything from me. And I just love that you were so brave and you're so bold and reached out. And what you didn't know before you reached out was we actually had reached out to Etsy to have an Etsy expert here, and they shut us down. They wouldn't send anyone to come speak at our event. And so we were like, man, this is such a gap in the market. We need to talk about Etsy. So many of these women are on Etsy. And so there you come along reaching out like, hey, I know Etsy. I teach women about Etsy. And so we're like, perfect. But there was no history. There was no backstory. You were just bold enough to reach out. And little did you know you were meeting a need that we had. And so I I just think that's such an inspiration for these women. And I wanted to make sure to cover that in this podcast, even though it's not related necessarily to Christmas sales, that when you reach out to bloggers or you reach out to people with more influence or people that maybe you admire and follow, you may be able to partner with them, which will lift your brand. And I hope your brand is lifted as a result of this event because you were just bold enough to ask and go for it. And I just think that's such a powerful example. And now you're here and we're so thankful you are because you're adding value to our event, but also it's going to be a win for you as well as the networking and the relationships you build in this brand and in this community. And really that's what we want the Business Boutique to be about, is really about women championing other women in all of our different strengths and different industries and that kind of thing. So Melissa, as we wrap up, I would just love it if you would just end with maybe a few words of encouragement for our listeners, especially about Etsy in the Christmas season. It can be crazy and it's about to get crazy and we know that, but you've been there, you've done that. And so let's leave them with some words of encouragement to get through this crazy Christmas season.
I just would encourage you to take a deep breath and remind yourself during this season how much you love what you're doing and how that is why you are here and why you're doing this. And just focus on what you can do, not on what you can't do, and also just on providing really great customer service. If you find yourself swamped, just communicate with your customers. They are so understanding for the most part, as long as you're communicating with them. And be realistic with yourself. Make sure you take time to enjoy your family and enjoy the Christmas season and not feel like all you're doing is working. Set boundaries if you need to, but just continue to love what you're doing so that at the end of it, you feel satisfied and not like you just can't wait to not have to touch your crafting materials for another month.
That's a good word. That's really why we are here, is because we love what we do and we want to make money doing it. So Melissa, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with us and encourage our listeners today. I appreciate you hanging out with us.
Thank you. It was fun.
Okay, guys, we have talked about some great advice on how to survive the crazy Christmas season and some amazing tips from Melissa Kaiserman on how to build your Etsy business. And now I'm so excited because we have a bonus interview with Rachel Cruze, who's the New York Times bestselling author of Smart Money, Smart Kids, and happens to be a very good friend of mine. And the reason I'm so excited about this interview is that many times the Christmas season is crazy, not just for our business, but also in our lives, and especially in our personal bank account. That can be the season where you rack up credit card debt and you make bad decisions that follow you into the new year. Luckily, Rachel has some awesome advice for you on how to survive the crazy Christmas season, not only in your business, but also in your personal finances as well. So Rachel, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, Christy, thanks for having me on.
So you have spoken at all of our Business Boutique events, and I love your talk because it really helps people understand how this money thing affects every area of our life. And your new book, Love Your Life, Not Theirs, focuses on comparisons. And you and I have talked about this before because I work with women in business and they compare their little starter business to someone else, but you really take it from the money angle. So I'd love it if you just kind of give us an overview about what this book is about that you talk about at the Business Boutique event as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. This book was written a lot of what I'm dealing with here in the present. And so I just realized when it comes to my money, the things I was struggling with, I was like, okay, you know, I have kind of sound financial principles that I live by. And if I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, I bet a lot of other people are. And so as I traveled the country and talked to people about the subject, especially comparison, it kept bubbling to the surface constantly. And so when it comes to comparisons, I always say it's one of the most damaging money habits that we have, because not only does it steal your joy, but it steals your paycheck as well. Because with your money, you're going to end up spending god-awful amounts of money to keep up a lifestyle that you think everyone else is living and you're missing out on. And it's this constant game. And the hard thing with comparisons too is it's a lie, because a lot of what you're seeing, whether it's social media or someone's Etsy store, whatever it is, it looks perfect and beautiful on the outside, but you don't see the entire picture. You don't see the hard work that goes behind building that Etsy store and the sacrifice, or you don't see, you know, possibly the second mortgage that was taken out to redo that kitchen that you see on Facebook now. And so just realizing that the comparison idea, what you're comparing your life to, isn't always reality.
Well, and I love how you've approached this, because if you look at anyone out there in the country speaking or teaching on finances, a lot of times they just talk about the surface level issues of just the bank account and the numbers. And my favorite thing about this book is that you get to the issue behind the issue. Like you get to the root of the issue of comparisons that's affecting your behavior, which is affecting your bank account. And it's just so important because it's a different angle than anyone's ever taken on money. And I love that because it really is what you and I deal with social media, but it's also something that can affect anyone regardless of their age or income level. It's what is the root of their motivation behind their behavior. Yes. And I like how you've really tackled that because it helps you change that to change your behavior.
Yeah, and money is so emotional. And I think that's kind of the fun part, maybe because I'm a woman, I'm more
Yeah.
gifted in like the emotional
We got
aspects
feelings.
of life. Yeah, totally. But I'm like, gosh, like there's so much more behind the numbers and the math, like what you were saying. And so being able to tackle not only the heart issue, but the struggle. And I'm like, I feel like the comparison game is something majority of us wake up and we battle with every single day. And it's, from smaller scale to larger scale, but it's constant. And so dealing with that gives you, I think, a very strong foundation. When you can be content and you're sustained in your life, that gives you that strong foundation to build the practical money tips. That's also in the book. I get very tactical and very simple things, but overall, yeah, just building that strong foundation of your emotional health and your relation not only to money, but to the people in your life.
Well, and I like too how you really have structured it, like you said, in a very tactical, practical way around these 7 habits. And, I've known you for a while and I've been working here for Ramsey Solutions for years. And so I'm very ingrained in what we teach about budgeting and avoiding debt and all of this stuff. But most people aren't. This is new news to many of them. They're not doing these things. Just a few weeks ago, my husband's debit card number was stolen. And so someone racked up all these charges. And so I had to call the bank and we were working through dealing with it. And the bank lady gets on the phone with me and she goes, well, this is why we really recommend that everyone have a backup credit card. And I was like, don't start with me. I was like, I don't want to hear it. But it reminded me what is normal to us, what is normal to you, especially as Dave Ramsey's daughter and living this out, is not normal to everyone else. So talk us through some of these habits that I know are so familiar for you living them out, but everyone's not doing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first habit is what we just talked about, quitting the comparisons, and just how key that is, again, just to build that strong emotional foundation for you and your money. I also talk about a habit, it's probably my hardest habit that I have to deal with for me, but it's make a plan for your money. It's this idea of budgeting, and bluntly, that's what it is. And whether you're in your business or your personal life, so you really, if you're out there listening and you have both, your personal life and your business, you need separate budgets. But I focus obviously on more of the household budgets, the money you're bringing into the household. And just the key ingredient that you have to be intentional, meaning you have to do things on purpose. And I know you talk about this a lot when it comes to Business Boutique content, but it's so true. And I feel like we live in a society where more than ever, we're very passive and we let things just happen to us and we're almost more reactionary because I feel like we don't own a lot of our choices. A lot of things are outsourced and we get a lot of people to do things for us and all this. And it's almost like we've had a harder time taking control of our life and really owning up and saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to stick to it. And that's what a budget is for your money. And it's very detailed. It's not overwhelming or intimidating. It may sound like that, but you have a detailed plan of where your money's going. And around here, we say we give every dollar a name. And that's a key part of winning with your money. And I say too that a budget doesn't limit your freedom. A budget gives you freedom. It gives you that permission to spend. And that's what's huge. And I think a lot of people have the misconception that a budget just means you have to live this cheap, boring life and you can't do anything fun. Where a budget's the opposite. It really allows you to do the things that you value. And so that's one habit that's key to winning with money.
Well, let's talk about that for a second because I think there are some words that we probably use, and I'm sure you experience this, where people immediately check out. So you say the word budget and people just check out. They're like, oh, typical budget. Yeah, I should do that. But here's what's interesting. If you think about it, I bet most of our listeners they probably have areas of their life that they set goals in. So if you want to run your first 5K, you work up your mileage and your distance to walk or to run 3.1 miles. If you have some things you need to accomplish in your household, you have a to-do list, right? You list out what you need to do and you check it off. We have the ability as women to be very efficient and effective, and we're achievers and we get a lot done. And so what's interesting is that we can have that in one area of our life. We understand goals. We understand making a plan and achieving those goals. But then for money, we're like, budget, that sounds boring. No fun. We're saying a budget's the same thing, right? It's a goal setting tool for your money for you to get to where you want to be. And so it's no different. If you want to get there, just make a plan.
Totally. And I think a lot of people, I find a lot of the hesitation comes from just kind of the fear of not knowing even that first
denial?
step. Yeah. And that first step of oh my gosh, what am I going to see? It's going to be so much worse than I think it is. And it's just all these fears and the unknowns. But it's amazing if you just step into it. It's so much less scarier as you're working through it. Now, for some people, it may be worse than what you think it is. You may come negligent. That means you really need to do this.
You need that wake-up call.
Yeah. But for most people, you're going to look and be like, okay, I can get a handle on this. Okay, it's not as intimidating and scary as I think it is. And I think that's a lot of people's hesitation. But yeah, be brave and own up because no one else is going to do it for you. It is your responsibility, so you have to step up and do it. And I promise the freedom that comes with it and the control, not bad control, but the good control over this part of your life. It's amazing because it's going to set you up to do what you want. And even for your business. I was just sat down with a couple a few months ago, and they had close to $1,600 left in their income that once their budget was completely filled out, they still had that left that they could fill in places, and whether it was pay off debt or whatever it is. But I was like, oh my gosh, like that could be you out there, and you could throw that extra money to your business if you want to. I mean, it's just amazing once you gain control, the margin that's possibly in your life and the freedom that comes with that.
Well, it's interesting because I see the same thing working with women in business where I've noticed that it's not having too many things to do that overwhelms them. It's not knowing what to do. And so it's like you're saying, it's this overwhelm of like, I don't even know what's out there. I don't know how many debts I have. I don't know how many bills I have. I don't know what I owe on my student loans. And so rather than facing it, you just kind of stay in denial and keep the wool pulled over your eyes and just try to pretend it doesn't exist. And then 10 years later, you're in no different place financially and you have nothing to show for where your money went. And you've worked so hard all that time to not have anything to show for it. Yeah. And so what I'd tell women with the business plan is here's the step-by-step plan for you to get to where you want to be in your business. And you're saying that's with your money. Here's your step-by-step plan to get to where you want to be in your money.
And download Every Dollar. Seriously, it is the best budgeting app. And my husband and I, we have the same login and password information. So we have it on our phones. And if you've heard me speak at Business Boutique, you know this. Like, I am a spender. I am a free spirit.
That's why you and I get along so well.
I know. Christy and I are like BFFs, if you don't know. I feel like we're being so professional in this interview. No, but this tool, seriously, it's an app on your phone, and it's incredible. It gives you step-by-step of what to do, shows you your categories. I mean, it just really gives you that jump start, and you can upgrade and get it connected to your bank account, which I cannot believe I'm saying this as like a spender free spirit, but the transactions come up when you swipe your debit card, and you get to drag it to like, okay, I shopped at Publix, it goes in my grocery. I mean, like, seriously.
You're in control.
It was amazing. And we did paper budgets for years, Winston and I did. And now since Every Dollar, like, I have this whole new thing about budgeting, which is another habit about talking about money even when it's hard. So if you are married out there, for you and your spouse to get on the same page when it comes to your money is key. So if you do the Every Dollar thing, make sure your spouse is involved.
Well, and the Every Dollar app is so beautiful too. Don't you think? Like, it's so attractive. Like you want to log in because you're just so excited.
Oh no, it's and then there's like a circle where it shows all of your expenses. So it's like this percentage. Part of the circle is filled up with one color about like this is what you spend on food, this is what you spend on recreation, this is what you save, and all of it. Yeah. It's amazing.
If you're a visual learner, it's very helpful for you to see exactly where you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, it's
now,
great.
Rachel, I can't believe we're this far into the conversation and I haven't said congratulations because your book launched yesterday.
Oh,
and this is a huge deal. So we're walking through the habits,
crazy.
But this is, you're right in the middle of launching your book that covers all of these things, and you're about to go on the road and talk about this. So this is just such an important topic for people to get. Talk us through, what are some of those other habits? I know you said quit the comparisons. We've got the budget, which is your plan for your money, and talking about it even when it's hard. What are some of the other ones?
Yeah. Well, I really think the communication of the talking about money is hard is a key habit. I don't want to float over it too much because I think it's something that I run up into. I mean, Winston and I literally, I don't know, this was probably 2 weeks ago, had like, I wouldn't say a fight. It was not like a screaming fight, but it was this disagreement of like, okay, we had money left over in one area of our budget. It was my clothing line item in the budget, and literally I hadn't spent anything else.
Just for the record, that never happens to me.
No,
I never have money left over.
I'm going to roll it over to next month. And he's like, why roll it over? I mean, like,
because he's the saver.
Yes. And I was like, no, I've done a video blog on this exact topic, and this is what I tell people, and I can roll it over. And like, it was this moment where I was like, oh my gosh, like Winston and I still have these moments like where we will kind of butt heads.
Well, doesn't he understand it is not motivating for you to save it if you can't roll it over? If you're going to lose it.
Do you know what I did? True story. This was not out of despite of him. We both had a healthy conversation about it, but I went and spent it that day. I really did, because it was toward the end of the month. I'm like, well, if I can't roll it over, then I'm going to go spend it.
It gave you permission to spend.
That is exactly what it did, Christy. So yeah. So you and your spouse, there's still maybe bumps in the road no matter how long you've been married, how long you've been doing this. But just the key, idea that you guys are working together. So that's huge. So talk about money, communicate about it, get on the same page.
Real quick, Rachel, one of the things you always talk about, and I think it plays into this conversation piece, is you talk about that money's never just about money. It really is about your hopes and your dreams and your values. And when you're in a relationship with someone, especially a marriage, which is so intimate, you both bring to the marriage different sets of values. Of course, we have the spender and the saver, but you have different sets of beliefs about what should be done. So as much as we laugh about it, that's such a great example where Winston values saving and you value, no, I'm going to roll it over, I want to spend it, et cetera. Yes. And so talk to us a little bit about how values plays into that conversation.
Yeah, it does. It's huge because it's about where you guys are going. And when you're married, going together is what's important. Because it's crazy how you can have two separate, missions in life. Your values are different. And then you kind of start to separate as the years go on. And your money is attached to that. And so to say, hey, no, your hobbies and interests, you're going to be, you're still a unique person. Winston likes hunting, and I'm probably never going to like hunting. So like you can still have your own
You don't have
identity.
hobbies, I learned.
No, I don't have hobbies. I got asked that yesterday on Facebook again. Like, have you found a hobby? I was like, no. Maybe I'll start a side business, Christy.
There you go.
But yeah, so it's not that you lose your sense of identity, but you need a value where you guys are going together. Chris Hogan, one of our friends, wrote a book called Retire Inspired, and one of his whole big goals about retirement is to dream together. And that's what I love, just this idea of sitting down and say, hey, this is where we want to be as a couple, as a family in the next year. Like, what would be crazy in 5 years? What if we paid the house off in 10 years? I mean, like, have these goals, have these dreams, have these visions, because then your money's going to be pointed towards that and the fun celebrations of it. I mean, even vacation, and be like, hey, next summer, where do we want to go? Like, where do we want to save up and go on vacation to? And then you get to experience the vacation together. And so really just being on that same page and being united is what's key. And your values are going to flow out of that. But you have to do it on purpose because it's not going to just happen.
When I've seen that, even with my husband, Matt, and I've seen that in the big stuff like you're talking about. Our next savings goal is, to add a deck under a house. Or our next savings goal is to replace the car, et cetera. But I've even seen it in the small monthly purchases as well, where I tend to value stuff that I want to buy that I can use again and again, like clothes or jewelry, et cetera. And my husband values experiences like restaurants. And so my husband, he's fine dropping good money on a really nice meal. And I'm like, but then it's over. But then the food is gone. Then the food is gone and the money's gone and it's all gone. But I could wear this outfit for so long.
So funny. Oh, yeah.
You'll see
and
that
I'm Matt Wright. Like, I am all about the experience, even though I love to shop. But yeah, no, but it's true, though. And to, I think, celebrate the differences.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
and both are represented in the plan.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. And so Winston gets to eat great food because I like to eat at nice places. So good for him.
Well, Rachel, you have so much wisdom around this topic, but I feel like you and we can talk for forever on this. I love this. But if you guys want to learn more about Rachel's 7 Habits and about how to love your life, not theirs, you can visit rachelcruze.com today because her book is available as of yesterday, which is so exciting. So Rachel, thanks so much for sharing your tips with us. I know it's things we can apply in our lives, but not only in our lives, for our listeners in their businesses as well. So thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me on, Christy, and I am so excited to be speaking at this Business Boutique coming up next month in November. I'm so excited.
Can't wait. Guys, isn't Rachel great? We have so much fun together. And don't forget, we have a special code just for you, the podcast listeners. You'll receive $10 off any ticket to the Business Boutique event this fall by going to businessboutique.com and using the code BBWright. That's BBWRIGHT and receive $10 off any ticket to the Business Boutique event. I can't wait to see you there. Okay, it's time for your homework for this episode, and it's another fun one. I'm giving away 2 tickets to the Business Boutique event this fall. Go to businessboutique.com/podcast and you'll be able to enter to win. All you have to do is go to the show notes for the episode of this podcast and you can enter your information there. That's all you have to do. Guys, don't miss out on a chance to win your spot at this event. All right, before we close, I want to encourage you to make it a priority to connect with our Business Boutique podcast community. You can go to businessboutique.com/podcast, and in the comments section to this episode, I'd like you to let me know about a goal you've set for this holiday season. It can be in any of the categories we've talked about today, in business, in life, or in money. And I want you to reach out to each other and encourage each other. Let's all strive to meet our goals together. Now that's it for this week. Thanks for hanging out with me as always, and don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. For more encouragement on how to make money doing what you love, visit businessboutique.com.
Mercy Me is coming to Pittsburgh. The Together Again tour with Mercy Me, Crowder, and special guest Andrew Rip. Thursday, October 5th. Bring your family and friends to the PPG Paints Arena in Pittsburgh for Mercy Me, Crowder, and Andrew Rip live in concert. 3 multiple award-winning artists on one stage for one night. Let your spirit soar, your heart sing, and your faith ignite. Mark your calendars for Thursday, October 5th. Get your tickets now at mercyme.org.